practice. We will call this meeting to order, the informational meeting, Tuesday, June 11th, 2013. I'd like to thank the counselors for showing up, and we will start out. It's great, man. It's a good story. We're going to start out with staff reports. Jim David, please, our Legislative Operations Manager.
Good afternoon, Council. Jim David, City Council staff. During the previous joint meeting, the Council, or Joint City Council County meeting, the Council agreed to send a letter requesting adequate funding for the Lewis and Clark Rural Water System. After consultation with Troy Larson, staff is recommending that two distinct letters be drafted. The first letter would be directed to the President and a carbon copy to the Secretary of the Interior and the Director of the Bureau of Reclamation. And then a second letter would be sent to both the Chair and Ranking Member of the House and Senate Appropriations Committees. Both letters will be drafted with the assistance of Lewis and Clark for your consideration. I should also say that we will carbon copy the Lewis and Clark Board on both of those letters, just letting them know what the Council has done. And then just secondly, just a quick reminder that the zoo tour is scheduled for this Friday. It will provide an opportunity for each of you to see some of the many improvements that have been done out there, and just a lunch will be provided, so don't worry about eating beforehand. Happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. David? Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, Councilor Jameson, Audit Committee, please.
Well, thank you. I believe we have Rich Oaksville here today to give us an update on some items, but I think we're going to do that later. Or did you want to do them now? And
on the Audit Committee?
Sorry, I see it. I'm looking at the agenda. Rich, welcome.
Rich Oaksville, Internal Audit Manager. We did not have any reports for the Audit Committee to consider, but we had a lot of updates on training, on action steps on our fraud risk assessment that we're going through. And then we also introduced a new committee member, Arnie Martins, who was approved by this council back a couple weeks ago. And we're very happy to see him, very well qualified. And so it's mainly just updates for the committee, so no reports.
Thank you very much, Rich. Anything else, Councilor Jameson?
No.
Thank you very much. This is going to be a small abbreviated meeting for this committee, for this informational, and then we will roll into the, following this, we will roll into the Public Services Committee. Councilor Anderson, do you want to give us an update of what's going to be on the agenda for the meeting, please?
Sure. Today we'll be reviewing the tobacco policy in parks. We'll be hearing from Don Kearney and Joe Franken on that item.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There were a couple of items that were requested some information on that I put out a request to some of the city directors. There will be item number 8 on our agenda tonight is the first reading of an ordinance for the supplemental appropriation for $7,288,000. There will be a presentation by Director Turbick concerning this deals with the ice storm that we had, and this is the supplemental appropriation for the respective departments. He'll get into explaining that. It's my understanding that this will be the only supplemental appropriation request. They do not have the total dollars worked up yet. Any additional dollars will be covered through general operating expenses of those respective departments. That being said, on the 18th of June at the informational, there will be a full report given, an up-to-date report. The total dollar amounts of the damages will not be known as of that time, but up to that time, they will give us, Mark Cotter will be here, Tracy Turbick will be here to give us an up-to-date presentation as far as where we're at with the application for FEMA dollars, what's going to happen, and all of those kinds of things, and that will be covered at the informational at June 18th. Any questions on that? Okay.
Jim?
Yes.
So the 7.2 million, that could be change? Is that?
Yeah, the supplemental appropriation request.
This is to
first
pay for
reading
what
is 7,288,000. That'll be discussed and explained tonight. What's that? Oh, right. Right, I'm sorry. Right, that's $7,288,000. I'm sorry about that. $613,000 for Parks and Recreation, $80,000 for fire, and then there will be engineering at $48,000, and then police for $9,000.
Dave Bixler, council staff. It's a little over $8 million. It's going to be the total supplement.
Right, and that is not the total, it's my understanding, Dave, is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct for the supplement. There will be some additional expenses, but there will not be an additional supplement requested.
Okay, thank you. That'll be explained tonight. Councilor Anderson?
And David, could you also explain that this money is going to be coming out of our reserve fund if we approve this?
Yes, there will be an update this evening, and that would be coming out of the reserve fund. The general expenses, the general fund.
Any other questions? Good? Okay, good. Is there any other business, any other open discussion for the council at this time? Councilor Jameson, please.
Thank you. I did want to bring up one item that I've had in my possession for a while, ever since we received the Aquatics Facilities Master Plan. We'd received the book some time ago, and the update as well as the presentation from Parks, Don Kearney, but I didn't bring it up then, but I wanted to at least start it now if I could. The indoor pool discussion. I'd called all the people in the book that they had referenced, Rapid City, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, all those places had indoor pools. So I called each of them and asked them a lot of questions like, how'd they do it? You know, we've struggled here in our community, but how did they do it? You know, funding, where did they get their money? Partnerships that they have for utilizing the building, the amenities inside the building, size, the year built. You know, Cedar Rapids, Iowa was operated by somebody else, and the city took it over. Anyway, there's all kinds of stories here, and I don't know where we're headed in our community for an indoor pool discussion. I know there's a vote coming up about an outdoor pool, but I hate to see this all sit here. You know, there's a lot of work that needs to get done in order to get an indoor pool done. We've got to figure out who our partners would be, how we would pay for it, other things. And so I'm trying to figure out how we continue this discussion, how we keep it moving. In Rapid City, I think maybe our best partner in all this, that how they did it. And we got an invite from Doug Lowe, the park director in Rapid, to have us all come there, or any of us who want to come there, and check out their indoor pool. I guess it's pretty nice. They've got all kinds of amenities, but I think we could learn a lot. I intend to stop there the next time I'm in Rapid, for sure. But I wanted to make sure I carried that invitation from Doug to the rest of you. One of the keys, well, I'll just share this, and then I'll close my mouth. The idea was that funding, you know, we've talked about an indoor pool before in the past, but perhaps the way we fund it could ease a lot of concerns by the general public. And it's just my suggestion with the entertainment tax debt service ending next year on the pavilion and the convention center, that would be a great way to fund it. That's how Rapid did it, something real similar. And so it's not such a sales tax, capital, you know, that we use for funding our city. It's an extra tax that I think would be more acceptable by the public. But I just want to keep this moving, is my point today, because I've been holding on to this information for a while, and I'm probably forgetting some things. I've written a lot of notes, you know, all the way from their revenues, their expenses, their operating expenses, and their all kinds of things. So I just didn't want it to sit on a shelf in my office. I wanted to keep it alive, and I thought I would share it with you folks, and if there's something more we should do or could do together, let's do it.
Councilor Karski, please.
We do have a pending election next April based on a petition drive, and I don't know if we're getting into some gray area, so you know, based on what Councilor Jameson said, this is an election about an outdoor pool. I guess I'd like to hear from the city attorney maybe what we can talk about based on this.
Please.
Dave? Councilor Karski, you can certainly discuss things that are educational or informative. And even as elected officials, by state law and city ordinance, you're allowed to give your own personal opinions on what you believe should be done. But certainly, from what Councilor Jameson was talking about, that was more just educational and informative rather than advocating at a specific park, for instance, which that ballot issue does regarding Spellerberg.
Councilor Anderson, please.
Thank you, City Attorney. That leads quite into what I was going to say. I was going to say, you know, instead of getting bogged down in the location, you know, argument or discussion, I totally agree with Councilman Jameson. I think it's a great idea to continue that discussion without saying support or not, but that discussion on how it's going to be financed. You know, working with the administration on what it's going to look like, what amenities are going to be in there. You know, when we did the event center, there was many trips that were taken all over the Midwest taking a look at different event centers by the administration, by, you know, private business. So I think it's a great idea for the council to take a look at this and be very much involved.
Councilor, anything else, Kenny?
Like I said, I agree with Councilman Jameson. I think it's something that we do need to continue taking a look at, keeping that discussion open. I think that, you know, the council members I've spoken with privately, I think a lot of people do support this. You know, like I said, without getting into the location discussion, let's come up with something that is reasonable. You know, funding maybe through finance or, you know, because once again, we're the ones that are going to have to decide that final financing formula.
Thank you. Dean?
And Director Carney can probably correct me, I see he's here if I'm wrong, but I believe when we did the study, we did, or the site plan, we looked at it based on, it could fit, this plan could fit just most places. Am I wrong in that assumption when we kind of drew up a design or something?
Please.
Good afternoon,
Thanks,
Councilor.
Don.
Yeah, Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. Are you talking about the toolbox options, Councilor Karski, as to where they could potentially be placed, or is that the nature of your question? Or
Trying to remember what when we appropriated the budget, what we talked about. We looked at it. We did a study, and the study was based on, you know, a pool. But maybe I'm confusing it with something else. So do we have something on our shelf of what a pool could look like and what it would cost to build at this time?
yeah, there were some different toolbox options that the consultant put together as a result of his master plan recommendations, and everything from indoor to outdoor to large outdoor to medium size family aquatic centers being outdoor. So there's a variety of different options that you could pick from to serve the needs of your community. So there are a lot of options out there.
Okay. Okay.
Councilor Aguilar?
Yeah, I guess that when we did the budget, though, didn't we also put money towards putting a plan together beside the study? Or did that get eliminated when we did the study?
Yeah, initially we talked about having a schematic design done on the actual pool itself, so people could get a good idea of what it would look like and what amenities would be included in it. And it sounds like that's what the councilors are talking about, trying to get some more detail as to what this might look like as far as the facility goes. And
so the schematic design is going to go forward this year still, or not?
Well, I think that's conversation now that the item is on the ballot, that we'll want to have a discussion about going forward to come up with some concepts that maybe people can take a look at, if that's something the council wants to do, and David's okay with it from a legal perspective. I think that's something we can certainly explore.
Councilor Jameson?
Right, from what I remember, the schematic drawings were pretty specific to Spellerberg. So it would take another step in developing a layout and a plan that could be universally used somewhere. but I think it's a healthy discussion. I really just hate us waiting 10 months to learn whether we should start then the discussion about what it's going to look like, and how we're going to pay for it, and how we're going to do it. And I don't want to lose 10 months, I guess is my point. Yep. And certainly Dave could help us stay out of trouble on it, but I think Don is right.
Some of the amenities that you were going to include, I mean, you know, you talked about a current channel. We talked about those kinds of things, identifying the amenities, so to speak, from locker rooms, different things like that, that we want to put in this facility that would be included, as well as a financing, Councilor Jameson. Do you think that those are the kinds of discussions we want to go ahead and have?
Right, and the idea that like Rapid City has a wonderful place, and it isn't that far. Maybe some of us will be there anyway, but and we've been invited to Doug Lowe would love to show it. Don, I think you know Doug.
Oh, yeah, I know him well.
You guys have talked a lot, he said. And anyway, I think there's just opportunities for us to get some, and partnerships with, say, the YMCA, WCA, anybody else in town, so we can start building that relationship to really get this thing done. And maybe, I don't want to go too far, and to suggest why the other elections have failed for an indoor pool, but that's the biggest sticking point. The surveys say they want an indoor facility, but we put it to a vote and it fails. And I think that the funding is a key to that, to make it happen finally. But let's work through all that ahead of time. And that's all.
Councilor Jameson, if I might be so bold as to ask, what would you suggest that we do then as far as that next step? Do you have some suggestions?
Well, I say we get in a van and drive to Rapid, but no, as far as the plan goes, I really wanted to just bring it up to the group, and if together we thought of a solution. My initial reaction would be that, I know a lot of times we turn these things over to the city staff to manage for us and take care of and put it all together, and the council sits back and kind of waits for it to all be finished. And I'd rather be more involved than that, but that's just my first glance at it.
You know, I might be so bold as to suggest maybe between you and I and maybe Don, maybe we can sit down and just do a little brainstorming session here, Greg, and maybe we can come up with some ideas and talk of, like, some examples, like you said, how they did it this is an example of what they did and what they built in Rapid City. Here's what they did and what they built in Des Moines. I know our consultant gave us those things and he looked specifically at those, I know, but maybe if we just had a slideshow to show what some of these amenities would look like and what the facility could look like, not being specific, but what we might include in that. Might be some good discussion, Director Kearney. So maybe, Greg, between you and I, and we can just sit down and have some discussions about this and see if we can get it slotted and how we want to proceed.
Sounds good.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for open discussion?
One thing over here. If I
Please,
might.
Michelle, please.
I just wanted to announce that our leadership on the South Dakota Municipal League has changed. I've served for 3 years on that board. Sioux Falls is required by their bylaws to have someone on their board, and I just decided it was time for someone else to have some fun with it. And Councilor Jameson has stepped up to be the Sioux Falls representative on the South Dakota Municipal League board. And there is some history there with the Jameson family, and so I know that they're excited to have Councilor Jameson join them. And so I thank you for your service and appreciate you stepping up to do that.
You bet. My dad was always critical of me for not getting involved, and so there's a lot of pressure involved in stepping up, as you call it, but no, it's my privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. I did make mention that I was going to announce committee assignments at this meeting. I have one more contact to make here before I can make those, one more counselor to talk with before I can do that. So it will probably be at the next informational meeting, and I'll make those announcements. Is there anything else to be covered under open discussion at this time? Councilor Anderson.
Yes, the last day and a half I have been in Minneapolis attending Xcel Energy advisory board meetings with the North Dakota Advisory Board. We were able to tour the largest clean coal burning plant in the Midwest in Monticello, Minnesota. It's just an amazing place. I've also had the privilege to go to the Red Wing facility, which is a nuclear facility and basically powers Minnesota, and we get our power from there also. But in our discussions, we did discuss the storm and the logistics of it with XL Energy bringing in crews from 9 different states to assist here. And I just wanted to say again, I thought that they did an excellent job, and that we always know that we've got a good partner there when we do have an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? That being all, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we'll be back in 10 minutes.